When we talk about Africa, we talk about her in the manner in which we know her after the colonial project. So we talk about Ghana as if Ghana started existence in 1957. We talk about the 54 recognized countries as if there was no life before they regained their independence. We talk about education as if prior to the coming into the continent of the colonizers, led by the Portuguese, whose handiwork you see at Elmina, prior to the advent of the British, the French, the Dutch, the Italians, and the Germans, and even the Arabs, that we did not exist and there was no education. That is a falsehood. We know that when the Europeans were still living in darkness, here in West Africa, there were organized kingdoms. We know there were universities. We know there was education that did not entail the issuance of certificates as the badge of education. If you ever doubted this, you only have to familiarize yourself with the works of Senegal's Cheikh Anta Diop. Cheikh Anta Diop reminds us that the Greeks learned their mathematics here, that their theories of construction were learned here, that there were great artists here. Africa had a golden age. But we must never make the mistake of romanticizing the past and forgetting that we have now and the future to live for. Indeed, our very presence here under the theme Empowering Minds and Shaping the Continent for the 21st Century is a reminder to us that we have a duty to reclaim our past. And what we are doing here has been done several years before. Students of history will tell you that as early as 1906, that great South African Pixley Isaka Seme, then a student at the University of Columbia, gave an iconic speech, The Regeneration of Africa. And he reminded us that we have a duty as Africans to regenerate ourselves. You only regenerate that which had been generated. He was right. Those of you who are Ghanaians will remember that great Ghanaian, James Emmons Kwejiragri, ordinarily referred to as Agri of Africa. And you'll remember him reminding us that although we have, courtesy of colonization, been fed on chicken feed for too long, we are eagles and we can fly and soar. We are here to remind ourselves that the time is now to reimagine and to rethink Africa. We must also remind ourselves that when we talk about Ghana, we must never make the mistake of confining ourselves to the geographical space that is called Ghana. We must remember those iconic words and immortal words of the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. On the day when you celebrated the regaining of Ghana's independence, and you said, the independence of Ghana means nothing if the rest of Africa is not independent. And it did not just mean the continent of Africa. It meant our kith and kin in the diaspora, to be found in the Caribbean, to be found in the United States of America, to be found in Europe, to be found in Australia. He meant all of them. And today we are here to talk about rethinking of education, because we in Africa have borne the brunt of abuse. That which we had was disrupted. In Mali, which is not too far from here, in the 14th century, long before the American Declaration of Independence, long before the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, long before all these declarations that you hear about, there lived a man, Sundiata Keita. And there was a Declaration of Human Rights, the Mandian Charter. You could not write a charter if you had no education. We had education. You are not far from Benin. The walls of Benin, history will tell you, were longer than the great walls of China. The Europeans and Americans are now admitting that they stole our artifacts and they are returning them. We had education here. The Monomotapa Empire in what is now called Zimbabwe. The Akan peoples here, the Ga, the Ewe, the Mandinka, the Bambara, the Mosi, the Baganda, the Ovambo and Ovimbundu in Angola had systems of governance. That is why you say Nananum. There is wisdom in that. So when somebody comes here and tells you that we only started governing ourselves when something called democracy was introduced to us, he is a liar. And we are telling ourselves that we were disrupted. This is why we have this conversation today. The disruption was so grave that today, here in Ghana, when you go to Tamale, the Moba people are to be found in Togo and to be found in Ghana. And somebody wants to tell us that the Moba in Ghana are Anglophone and the Moba in Togo are Francophone. It cannot be true. Somebody tells us that the Ovambo and the Ovimbundu in Angola are Lusophone because they were colonized by the Portuguese, and that they are kith and kin in the Democratic Republic of Congo are Francophone because they were colonized by the Belgians. It cannot be true.